All right, guys, we are driving to the gym once again. Welcome back. And today I was thinking that people need to take more responsibility. This is something that I have done in my own life for the past couple of years. I did not used to do this. When I was a kid, I did not have a huge sense of responsibility for my own life and making sure that what I wanted to happen happened. And so a lot of the time I would just wait for what I wanted to happen and expect either other people to make it happen or just be hopeful that something would happen. And that goes into a ton of different areas, whether it's friendships, whether it's dating, whether it's financially, having what I wanted. I would expect things to just happen and hope that they would turn out a certain way, which I realized over the years, as things didn't turn out how I wanted them to, that just wasn't going to work. But I think that a lot of people never realize that things aren't going to turn out how they want them to, or maybe they just don't even think that it's in the cards for things to turn out how they want them to. They think, no way I'm going to become a millionaire, or no way I'm going to, have a great group of friends and we go on trips, or have an incredible wife. Like, they think I'll have a group of friends. They think I'll make some money. I might have a wife if I can manage it. And maybe we'll get divorced one day. And that's what they think. But they don't ever, and some people do, obviously, dream big and really go after their dreams. But a lot of people, I think what it comes down to is not taking responsibility for implementing the changes that you want in your life. And, that is something, it's really hard to come to terms with the fact that, past a certain age, when you're a kid, you're not necessarily fully responsible for what goes on, especially if you're a very young kid, like 5, 6, 7, 8. You've had no time. You haven't had a chance to be a really, an intelligent, conscious being that is manipulating the world, that is educated and knows that, you haven't been educated. You haven't learned all that you need to. You hardly know how to speak in proper sentences. And so, as time goes on, though, you learn more and more, and you become better educated, and more responsibility is put on you to make life what you want it to be. And I think that a lot of people never hear that, and they don't. I was never told that. It's kind of something that I realized for myself. And, maybe I was told in little ways. I'd hear an inspirational speech on YouTube or something. Maybe my parents would say, go after your dreams, that kind of stuff. But it was never really put very bluntly to me that I am, at this point in my life, 99% responsible for the outcomes that I get. And, where I am today, I could either be in a much better situation or a much worse situation today than where I am based on what I've done in the past. And once you start thinking about things in terms of that, and you start thinking about where you want to be in a year or in 5 years or in 10 years, you start to think, well, what could I actually do to start getting myself in that direction? Am I currently doing things that are going to get me there? Or if I just keep doing what I'm doing, am I on the path towards getting to that point? And you have to be very brutally honest with yourself. And you have to really be pretty realistic in terms of outcomes and the likelihood that certain things will come out of certain actions, that you'll get certain outcomes based on your inputs. A lot of the time people will say, yeah, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to get promoted and I'm going to move up in the company and start earning X amount per year, and I'll put this much money away. And they don't actually even necessarily think it that much through. They just think like, I'll move up in the company, I'll get promotions, I'll have a ton of money, a big salary. They just hear, big numbers and they think, all right, well, that'll be great. Maybe someone thinks they're going to become a lawyer or a doctor and earn, $250,000 a year, right? And they think, all right, well, this will make me, I can then afford to live in a $2 million house. And, they're not necessarily thinking about the numbers, but their expectations are, they'll live in this type of house, and they don't know how much it costs necessarily, but maybe it's a $2 million house. Now, when you actually think about something realistically and you put numbers to it, you can do a much better job of evaluating whether you're going to get to where you want to be, because we have statistics that we can look back on and say, all right, this is typically, how much would get taken out of taxes of a certain salary. This is how much a house like that typically costs. And you can look at all of these different things and you can say, okay, well, this is how much a car typically costs if you want to drive this type of car. And you can add all of these numbers up and you can figure out, okay, am I going to get there? And of course, this is just, financially. Obviously, when talking about friendships or relationships or personal growth or muscle building or anything, it's going to be different. But financially, it's pretty simple to look at the numbers, and that is, it's something I like to do. So, in this example, maybe someone thinks, all right, I'm going to be a doctor and make $250,000 a year. I'll live in this really great house. Maybe it has a value of $2 million, if we're talking, in the future when this person wants to become a doctor. Well, how many years would I have to save up to afford that? And, maybe not buy it outright, but to afford a 20% down payment, that's $400,000. And when you think about, okay, you make 250, how much gets taken out as taxes? I mean, when you make that much, it must be close in between 30 to 40%, somewhere in there, maybe more, depending on the state you live in. And so you're talking about, $135,000 salary, $150,000 salary, somewhere in there after tax. Taking out your expenses, you're probably living a nice life with a car, and if you're having kids, those are going to be somewhat expensive. If you're eating healthy food, that obviously that adds up. And how many years do you have to save to be able to afford even just the down payment on that house? Well, okay, that takes maybe 4 years of being pretty frugal and living off not that much. And people don't necessarily think about that. I mean, they don't think about and that's if they actually, best case scenario, achieve this job. And they don't even think about how they're going to achieve it a lot of the time. I mean, sometimes they just think, oh, I'll work my way up. And they don't have a plan for, are they actually going to get there sometime soon? And so it's thinking realistically and actually putting the numbers on things. And if you want to live in that house in the next 5 years, well, okay, you've got to go to school for 6. You've got to earn money for 4, and maybe longer than that, because you have to pay off the debt from school. That's not even something that we thought about. So there's a lot that goes into planning life. That's, this was 5 minutes of planning one small aspect of life, and we got hardly anywhere, right? We couldn't even figure out, what kind of house we could afford on a doctor's salary. So it's a complicated thing, and it warrants a lot of thinking about. And, thinking is one of the most important things you can do before you actually take action. Thinking about what effects are the actions that I take going to have? What actions should I take, rather, if I want certain outcomes? That's really important. And a lot of people just tend to not think that way. They just kind of wake up in the morning and, they have tasks that they know they need to do. They know they need to get dressed, have breakfast, go to work, and pay their bills, and, try to save up some money for whatever future expenses they're going to have. But if you really think about the big picture, then you can start taking different actions and you can say, okay, well, on my current path, it's going to take me 50 years to be able to afford, at my current salary, the house that I want. So what do I need to do? How do I need to go about earning more money? Should I start my own business? Should I work towards a promotion? What specific actions can I take to achieve those steps? And is it realistic that if I do these actions that I'm actually going to get where I want to be? And, evaluate. And it's tough to do that. A lot of people, I'm optimistic, honestly. I'm an optimistic person. A lot of the time, things just don't quite pan out how I expect they would. Maybe I think X activity would be more profitable, or I think it would take less time to do. And so my calculations are skewed by that. Some people are more pessimistic and they might think, that's going to take way too long. It's going to take 10 years to get to where I want to be, doing this thing, and that's not worth it. But they might be pessimistic. Maybe it would only take, 5 years or 3 years. And so we can only do the best with what we've got, but it really pays to do some research, think about these things, and actually plan out the future and take responsibility for where we are in life and where we want to be. So that's what I have for today. If you guys enjoyed, then I'm glad, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.